You're a fraud.
You're a liberal hack.
Well, hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of The Hack and the Fraud. My name is Ryan. I'm joined, as always, by Nicholas.
Hello, hello.
And today we're going to be doing a movie review, specific movie review. We'll be talking about a movie that we pretty much completely missed the ball on. Irrelevant to the culture now. Discourse has moved on. Audience has moved on. We're talking the box office bomb, Furiosa.
Whatever you have to do. However long it takes. Promise me you'll find your way home. Furiosa. Give me this promise.
Well, let's bring the discourse back. I think this is what. Let's distract them from what is, the issues of the world and bring it back to talking about Furiosa again. So, who we got? We got Chris Hemsworth. We got Anya Taylor-Joy, directed by George Miller. It's always good when a director is, directing his own franchise rather than being outsourced and
passing it on to fucking James Mangold or something with shit out of Dial of Destiny, fucking piece of shit. And it is totally like a Spielberg thing where it's like, sure, you can copy George Miller, but nobody would ever be able to get close to his style. I can't think of another director. But no, I am kidding. It is, who gives a fuck about the box office? It made its budget back, and allegedly the budget was half paid for by the New South Wales and Australian government.
We taxpayers have to, well, not we, I suppose, the New South Wales.
Yeah, we should get free tickets, really.
Yeah, we should have.
But, well, look, we'll just get into it. What did you think of Furiosa?
Look, I kind of know that we're pretty far apart with this one. And pretty far, not so far, but pretty far. I didn't love it. In fact, I was more on the hate kind of wagon. More on the hate wagon until I kind of calm myself down and talk myself down off the ledge, I think, after having watched the film, that it wasn't so bad. But I certainly didn't love it. And I had a lot to say about why it didn't quite make it for me. So I do concede that obviously majority of critics did really like it. And the audience scores were quite good. Mm-hmm. So I think high 7s, even 8, and I think about the same for Metacritic. So it's done well critically and with the audience scores, but obviously it didn't quite capture massive box office success. And I wonder why that is. I wonder if that's to do with the timing of its review. Timing of its
I think
its release.
It just doesn't have that massive a fan base, I think.
That's certainly part of it, yeah. I think there's not really... Yeah, well, I think that's part of the issue. For me, it was the fact that there's no real yearning for this film. I don't really think there was anyone asking for it. If
this film, necessarily. A Mad Max film?
Franchise, a Mad Max, anything. Sure, I'd be very... so sometimes I like things, the less of something makes it really
more special. Star Wars,
more special. So
like Star Wars, Marvel. I've got no joy, watching them now. And obviously, Mad Max is not on that level. But I'm sure the studios, if they did as much money as the Star Wars movies, they would love to have just shit out Mad Max after Mad Max.
Yeah. So that being said, that there isn't really an oversaturation of Mad Max content. So there's a video game, there's the Fury Road. But aside from that, there's really just the original trilogy and probably some graphic novels and everything like that. There's not really that much.
No.
So, yeah, look, there is room to make Mad Max films. I just think this story in particular was not of any interest to, I want to say most audiences, because when you watch Fury Road, I wasn't really like, oh, Furiosa was cool. Let's make a whole movie about how she came to be. Like a sort of like a superhero origin story.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the other reason why I didn't like it, because it felt like it was a bit of a Marvel cape shit movie. I've got to be honest. Like it just hit the same notes.
Well, it didn't help having the little cameo of Mad Max up on the hill watching her just walk into the desert for 5 seconds. Like there's his interceptor, there's his silhouette. Mad Max is still in the movie, guys. I don't understand why that was included. It did feel, more in the vein of the Star Wars cameos than, a serious bit of filmmaking that we're expecting from George Miller. I do also think it's stuff like that's probably contributes to the audience not showing up for the film is that it is a prequel. It is hard to sell a prequel. It is. When you kind of, the audience, most audiences will just go, look, I already know what happens. I don't care how Furiosa became Furiosa. It is funny that it is how she became Furiosa, but she was Furiosa from birth. I was expecting her to get her name at some point.
You're right, yeah.
Like a furious woman or something, but I guess, from birth. Furiosa.
Furiosa, yeah.
I don't know what it is about that kid saying Furiosa in that accent, but I really love that. It's just Australian cinema or something. Like, it's nice to see that in a big budget Hollywood movie, and I kind of like that whole. I mean, I always like the Australian, but I think it started strong in the movie. And look, I liked it a lot more than you. But so you were talking. We'll go into my feelings on it, but you keep telling me about what you dislike.
I've hit on the two major notes where it really didn't sell it for me, and that it felt very formulaic. I don't think it was inspired storytelling. Now, obviously, the rebuttal to that is Fury Road wasn't either, but I think what Fury Road had, which this didn't, was its simplification of story allowed it to just really absolutely pile on the adrenaline in terms of every scene felt like you were watching.
It's
like a lot. I'm trying to think. So
even just talking about it.
Yeah, it gets me excited. It was really just an exciting film.
Well, I can tell you what I think about Fury Road, and I've articulated this on Twitter a bit. It's, as I've said, it's an experiment in action movies. He strips it away, strips away everything, plot, story. The characters are fine. They're not super deep, but the movie doesn't call for that.
Yeah. There's a mysteriousness to them,
which is great.
And the backstory, that's the thing; it doesn't need to be fleshed out. So Furiosa having this mysterious backstory as to how she got to where she was really gave a lot of credence to a character. I don't think adding to that was so. With Mad Max, I didn't need to know about Tom Hardy's character. I don't care that he said 5 words. It was fine.
and we got the backstory of Mad Max. Like Mad Max 1 is such a different movie from all the rest of them. And we're no longer we're now living kind of in the Wasteland world, and that's the franchise, and that's what we've established now. Obviously, this is still Wasteland, but I don't think we need to go back further. I think the Charlize Theron character kind of felt like a one-movie character, and she still had a lot of mystery to her. I liked what we saw of her, and I liked imagining her backstory. And it's tragic and horrible as we expected. But I do agree that it's kind of after Fury Road, which is this experiment in action movies. Like that's a whole different thing. It's like it transcends cinema. It is kind of like a culmination of a certain kind of cinema. It's a really special movie in a way that Furiosa is not. Furiosa just kind of feels like a normal movie, 3-act structure. Well, it's 5 acts technically, I suppose, because it does, but it's still kind of a traditional movie. Whereas Fury Road was, action with very brief story scenes. This is story scenes with very brief action. If you're going to Mad Max for action, which I am, because even from the first movie, the action's so good. It's basic. It's cars smashing through caravans and guys doing front flips off their motorbikes, but it's still awesome to watch.
It's got its own style of sped up camera in such a campy way that only it can really. The
bulging eyes, the camera zooms, it's got such a unique style. Whereas Furiosa doesn't really feel like it has an identity. Now, all that being said, I still gave it an 8. I think, not to get into it too early, but I gave it an 8, and I think I was is 7 or 8. It's kind of like a weak 8, strong 7, probably more like 7.5 because I enjoyed lots of it, but then I was also disappointed.
So I think we're probably going to agree on a lot of what we both didn't like, and then we'll talk about obviously what you perhaps got out of it more than I did. So I think this will probably sound mean, but it's not. Mad Max Fury Road was like a theme park for
in a great
like
way.
but in the best way, in the really just the excitement of it, the sort of childlike wonder. You go and watch a film and you're like, that was totally just something else. And then this was like I draw the comparison to Marvel. It just really just felt like a uninspired studio request. I know George Miller did direct it, but
I think that's harsh. Yeah, that feels harsh.
I know it's harsh, and it was harsher before.
You've settled
I'm having
down,
to come
actually.
up a little bit, because I know that I'm sounding a bit out of whack here, and I'm certainly going against the grain. But it really just didn't do anything for me, and even all the great sort of like action bits that we see on YouTube and people saying this was like fantastic. I've seen this before in Marvel, and I never thought it was that good. Like the fire scenes, the tower falling over in the bullet farm.
I'd like the bullet farm scene when
CGI nonsense, really.
When Praetorian Jack was doing the shooting, there was some really nice camera movements and the like. I thought that action scene was actually pretty good, but it was more the characters in this movie. The action is almost like it was directed by a different person or like different stunt coordinators. I know a lot were brought back, but you know what actually is a way better example than Marvel is Matrix Resurrections, because it depends how much you hate it or like. I liked Matrix Resurrections. But they didn't have the same fight coordinator and team. So even though I really liked Matrix Resurrections, like the action scenes, it felt like a really like kind of like a pale cover band version of, and to some degree, the action in this felt like a cover version of George Miller.
Of George Miller. Yeah, it did honestly feel like that. I understand your comparison. Look, I agree to it except for the story that was in Revolutions and the second one. I forgot the second one's called. Reloaded, because there was an overarching story that was just so important and crucial that you almost forgave it for everything, like, because that was a really interesting. Well,
those are good movies.
The story overarching this did not matter. It did, like, there's not that importance to it. So yeah, look, what's his name? Praetorian Jack. I know we talk about, Mad Max not getting much screen time, but still you sort of, are intrigued by the character. I just didn't feel that for Praetorian Jack.
He was just a nice guy in The Wasteland, which I like that character. I do like the idea that there can still be just a nice guy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
A good guy, not a nice guy. A good guy in The Wasteland. But I do agree that he is kind of like a Max character. Like, even in this Mad Max universe where there are all these horrible people, there's always a good guy, Mad Max. Yeah. Even in the first movie, the police chief is like, people don't believe in heroes anymore, Max. We're going to give them back their heroes. That's kind of thematically consistent through the series. But I do agree, all that being said, that Praetorian Jack, I didn't feel the affection that a lot of people seem to be having towards him and the actor and just the overall character performance.
Yeah.
He's fine.
So you touched on probably the I suppose the action, I don't know if it really was even the absolute climax of the film, but it was the sort of the huge war truck, the big...
The Octobus bit?
Yeah, well,
with
essentially
the parachuting guys.
Yeah, I think that was sort of part of it. Was at the end of it? I can't remember.
I know. I think that was like maybe halfway through. It was before the Bullet Town fight.
Yeah, it was before that, and that was to me the best action sequence.
Yeah, it's kind of like you just get 15 minutes of Fury Road. And then it's back to Furiosa,
and then you get a narrator saying, and they spent.
Oh no, I like that bit. I like the 40-day war.
We've just seen some really great action, and that was kind of like, and we're not going to see that again, guys. We're going to.
It's like 30-second montage.
So it's just a bit. Yeah, I mean, like, for what Mad Fury Road had going for it, without really a story, it accomplished so much, whereas this one attempted so much, but really I don't think got anywhere near to providing a coherent sort of, like.
Well, yeah, it's trying to be a completely different thing. That's the thing. You go in with, you have to, I mean, we all went in with expectations aligning with Fury Road, and then we were served up Furiosa, and I think it took me some digesting, but I ended up appreciating it. Sure. But I also see how, and I can see how people might not end up digesting it and disliking it, and I can also just see you disliking it generally, because it's one of those movies where I'm not going into bat for it as strongly as I would for other movies. So it speaks to something there that we were all let down. I think most people, apart from Hideo Kojima, who's still obsessed, most people might have had a sensation of being let down at some point watching the movie. I'm not sure.
But it's still got good reviews. So no, I think there are enough out there that really, really did enjoy it as much as that fella. So I like, so another quick comparison in terms of that sort of sequel following such a great,
perfect, almost
like Alien into Aliens, Star Wars into Star
Alien
Wars
3.
Well, I mean, I'll go in the back for.
No, we both do. We love Alien 3.
But yeah, like, imagine if Aliens didn't work, if Aliens was sort of that, is in like, okay, let's take the story of Sigourney Weaver Ripley and give her a backstory, or, take her forward even, and we keep following, and it just was a complete mess. That stops the Alien franchise, really. I think. But
I think this probably
anyway,
does.
Let's get into what you really liked about it. Because,
okay, well, I did like Chris Hemsworth eventually. We're talking about the leads. Chris, to begin with, I wasn't fully convinced on him, but I think in a rewatch I will be more convinced the whole way through, because I think he's probably the best character Miller has put in to a Mad Max movie, in terms of like really giving him a decent character background development. Max is, good. He goes through obviously the terribleness, but like most of the characters are caricatures. And Dementis, he's playing a caricature, but he himself is quite a layered character. I mean, he lost his family and kids and is demented because of that. But I really liked, especially, he has a great monologue towards the end of the movie where he's talking about, you and me, we're already dead. We just live for experience, anything to drive away the cranky black sorrow. And I'm like, I've kind of understood the character more. He's just, he is, dead, just living. He doesn't, I mean, he's obviously evil, but he's not.
Do you think him having to say that is maybe a disservice to what was really being portrayed?
I really like that scene where they have the little back and forth.
I like it enough, but I felt, it's a show, don't tell. And I think he did show that. But it just was like, you were
over it by then, I assume.
No. But I was like, I'd have just watched this whole movie, and I understand that. You don't need to, like, he went into it a bit. I don't know. Like, mate, I was probably, you might be right. I was probably thinking like,
well, when you're hating something, everything is kind of stupid. You're looking at it, and I don't mean that it is not stupid, but like, I was enjoying it. So when it got to that kind of was the cherry on top for me. That kind of scene, it kind of clinched the ending when I was unsure about the movie. When I was sitting on that sort of 7 out of 10, I was like,
okay.
And then the ending is what really did clinch it for me. And I think Hemsworth, he really acted his pants off in those scenes and convinced me, that he's kind of a good actor. And so I was enjoying it for that as well. I was just enjoying.
Yeah, no, I agree that he was quite good in this film. Don't disagree with that at all. I think I was talking with someone I watched it with, one of the Seans, and he said it was probably the best Hemsworth performance in movies. And I was thinking, like,
well, Extraction 2 is so anybody? Yeah,
I think.
Though I still think probably Thor 3 was like.
No, Rush. I don't know if you've seen Rush.
Rush.
To be honest, I watched that and I was just like,
I got
Chris Hemsworth's a great actor. Wow. And then he hasn't done anything since.
He did fucking Black Hat in 2015 with Michael Mann, and he was perfect as like the Val Kilmer stand-in. Yeah, he's actually really good in that. So no, I mean, he's a good actor. But he's just been
Star Trek at the start where he was. Captain Kirk's dad.
Yeah. That's so good. I tear up every time I watch that scene. Oh. And when I watch the trailer as well for that movie.
Yeah, no, I think he is. He has that great performance in him, but he's taken I want to say the easy route, because that's making it sound like he's decided just to. But he's just been kind of given all these Thor roles, and this sort of like Australian, not quite Hugh Jackman, but
he's no Dave Bautista or other roided up guys.
But that can really just do so much and so little, I think. But he was a leading guy in Rush as James Hunt. He was very, very good.
Yeah, so he's got it in him, but he's not been able to express it. So I mean, maybe it's not such a positive. I've forgotten, I guess, that I enjoyed watching Chris Hemsworth work. I like his little fake nose and stuff. Yeah, that was good character design. Anya Taylor-Joy, I thought fine, good. Mostly, but probably nothing to write home about. It's hard to follow Charlize Theron. I think
she accomplishes more with a character. I think with
Anya.
No.
Charlize. Yeah, she's like one of the best actors ever.
Yeah. So it's very, very very difficult to do that. I'll say I don't know who the child actor was, but I thought she was great. I think
that's young Furiosa.
Yeah, she was excellent.
And the supporting cast were all fun. Angus Thompson's there. I saw the rugby league guy, the first rugby league guy to come out as I forgot his name.
Oh, Ian Roberts.
Ian Roberts was in it very briefly. Like, it was just like half a second. I saw him. I'm like, that's fucking Ian Roberts. I looked it up. It was him. Full of those kind of, the movie's full of those. Look, what else did I like about it?
I think the opening's quite strong. I think it's not talking about the garden. That's where it uses CGI. It's not super inspired, but the chase is pretty fun. The camp scene where they're in that kind of storm. I was liking and enjoying those scenes.
Yeah, as was I. Yeah. And I liked all the Australianisms, as always. I like the world building he's done when the characters are like chasing him and they go, "Fang it, fang it." Feels very Australian. I like it. It's weird enough, different enough in movies to still be like a point of difference and something interesting, rather than kind of this. But as I was saying, I just watched Mad Max 1 again, and it's people get angry at people complaining about the CGI, but I think the complaining about the CGI it's fair enough. Like, a lot of the movie looks like, even though they did film a lot of it outside, they then fill the horizons and everything with CGI. So it still looks very CGI heavy for a lot of the movie. And it does take me out of it. I watch Mad Max and it's filmed like in Australia on, country roads. And you see them flip out. As I was saying, it's a melding of like the environment and the flesh and the engines, the metal. It's all together on screen in a really like visceral, satisfying way that makes it. And like the intro to Mad Max 1, where it's like a few years from now, and it just feels so real in a way that now these movies have transitioned completely to fantasy. Obviously, that's fine. But even like in Mad Max 2 and 3, it still feels more real than this because it is real. And I think that's just a problem with all cinema. If we're going to just continually shove CGI into every single frame. Like, I've never seen a sun glare or like a sunset or like a skyscape that looks real if they've done it in CGI. It always looks like a video game.
Just fire scenes. It's always that kind
fire
of
scenes, water obviously as well, but not much of that in this movie.
But every time now we see like fog or we see smoke or
snow,
that kind of, it just never feels. It's like, it just feels so
horrible. It's horrible. It really is up. Every time that I see something like that, like when it's a dust storm and it's all CGI dust, I'm like, can't you just blow some dust around? That's way better. And I think, it's a problem with the movie. It's a problem.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair critique. I've certainly point that out like very often as you hear me complain about it, like I'm an old man. And so when we see Fury Road and we're like Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time, like pointing to the real cars that are getting blown up on the screen. Yeah. And just being like, wow, that's riff. There's a guy playing bass in one of the, the riff to the movie, Iota, from the truck. It's just amazing, the sounds there. I think that's what we don't get, that full immersion that we just used to. And this really only serves to make those films from the 80s, from the 90s and back, even the early 2000s, with us still doing everything really.
I know. You watch
they just make it better.
You watch like a shit 2004 blockbuster that at the time nobody cared about. You watch it now, you're like, oh my God, the artistry, the craftsmanship.
Independence Day, right? You watch that and you're
fucking Transformers. You're like, this is so real. It's like I'm there.
That's fair. That's fair too, because at least they did.
Well, for what they do now, right? So in Transformers 2, which everybody agrees is a bad movie, there's still that really cool forest fight scene where all the Transformers are fighting in like these big, pine Pacific Northwest forest. And it's a beautiful scene. The way it's shot, and also it's when Optimus dies, it's really sad. But the thing that they did was they just went to a forest and I guess filmed nothing, just doing the whip pans, and there's nothing there on screen. And then they just put in the Transformers later. So, and Transformers also look good in CGI, but because it's all framed within a real environment, it feels so much more real than what they would do nowadays. Is they would just film the entire thing on the computer in CGI. And I think
they'll say audience don't notice.
Dude, I think they do subconsciously. It doesn't. I don't know, man. It's hard to. It feels unfair to pinpoint Furiosa for this one.
No. That's exactly right. That's sort of like it's not the Then it's not the only one that's done that by far. And it's not the way. I mean, it did have a lot of physical stunts and real scenes. Like a lot of the bike scenes were really,
Yeah, I think the parachuters were.
So real. I mean, it's doing better than most.
It is. But I guess it is when you do that big kind of movie, it's going to look like that now. But it still does affect, how I view the movie, and I'm sure that it will eventually turn to some degree because, there are diminishing returns on it. People don't want to see CGI as much anymore. Oppenheimer and Barbie, we're not. I know we're going back to those as saving cinema, but I think everything. Star Wars is moving away from using the big CGI wall thing they use. Can't remember what it's called, the Vault or the Void or whatever. We're moving away from it, but this is maybe the tail end of it, but it's still, as we say, a fair criticism. But anyway, moving on from the CGI, I'm not sounding like I really loved it, but I think, this is the thing. It doesn't have the word of mouth because people aren't being effusive about it, maybe.
Okay, that's it. People liked it, and that's really the extent of it. I'm right now reading a review on Roger Ebert that's 4 stars, so the full 4 stars, but it doesn't read like a 4-star review.
I'm seeing a lot of that where the way they talk about it is not reflect, and then they go 9 out of 10. It's it's just good. I think people we want it to be good. Fury Road was an example of somebody coming in to kind of save blockbuster cinema, and so we really, really want it to be good. And it is. Look, it is good, but I'm not devastated that we won't see The Wasteland, maybe the sequel that was going to happen. I'm kind of okay with not seeing another Mad Max Saga that looks and feels like that.
Yeah, I mean that's where's it go from here? So that's been red lit, has it?
I think so.
Okay. Oh well,
I think his directing is good. I think
because that's I certainly won't accuse it of not putting effort in, which I do absolutely love about. This and films where they do see it. So look, it is a little bit sad that I really couldn't get on board and get behind all the not the noise but the whispers about it. But
I think it could have easily lost 20 minutes. Not to I like long movies as much as anybody, but there's 2.5 hours after the, I think, sub 2 hour Fury Road. I don't know if it needed the length because it is just telling a story that we kind of know in a way.
Yeah, I think it's because it also doesn't really end where it should. It's sort of, like I said, it has its climax in the middle of the film. Arguably, the opening is the best story-wise. From there, from the time you get to the end, you're not getting anything better than what you've already seen. And that certainly leaves a bit of a lasting impression as to, that's certainly why I was walking out thinking, that was a pile of trash, but I really had to kind of, well, hang on. You watched not just half an hour at the end of the movie, you watched the full 2.5 hour movie.
Enjoyed it before then. Or,
enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. It's not like I think I gave it a dumb score to start with. It's not that. But like I certainly, I was, I was fleshing out its problems, but just wasn't to be. Again, we just don't agree these days, Ryan.
Well, you might have convinced me a little bit. But yeah, I think that's kind of most of what I had to say about it. Trying to end on a positive because, look, I think despite all these little flaws, bigger flaws, I was still pretty captivated for most of the movie. I just had, the little niggling in my mind, like, am I not enjoying this? I was picking up little bits that were kind of frustrating me throughout the movie. But yeah, I think overall it stuck the landing. The sort of the final stretch of the movie sort of contextualized the rest of the movie in the way. And then also after having finished the movie, sitting with it, thinking about it, understanding that it's not Fury Road. I shouldn't have expected Fury Road 2. I liked it a lot.
It's gaslighting you, this film. It's trying to say, it was never meant to be Fury Road. It was not going to be as good. That's your own fault.
I know. I'm justifying it again. I'm like,
no, you justify. I got another bad thing that I did.
All right.
We can end on a bad note. When I think it was at the end where they were talking about like the 100-day war or something between,
the facts.
So they weren't showing it. They were just kind of doing a big monologue. But it was like, imagine if Lord of the Rings had the big Sauron and Orc army versus the elves and men, but that was the finale. And that was just Galadriel talking about what happened, and it was like, that was it. It was like a 3-minute climax.
Yeah.
Like Helm's Deep was just Galadriel saying, and then Gandalf showed up, and
really
all's better now. And that's the end. You know what I mean? Like, it was so out of place, I felt.
I can't describe why I liked it, but I actually did. I like that he went, and then it was a 40-day. It kind of goes into the mythologizing, storytelling nature of it, which I kind of like.
At the end of the movie, though, that's the thing. It wasn't the start. Like at the start, it makes sense because you're setting like.
Well, even at the end, they were doing the storytelling bit with like all the different ways Dementus might have been killed, and he's like, "But she told me the truth, whispered in my ear." There, and then like the true story is pretty ridiculous. I get thematically the whole growing a peach tree out of his groin of the peach seed that her mother gave her. Thematically,
I don't think that really happened. I think that was what she wanted to.
That was another,
complete her vengeance story, but really just shot him too early.
Yes, I think that's probably true. But I still was annoyed by that just kind of being in the movie. I was like, all right.
I wasn't so annoyed. I mean, yeah, there we go.
That's all right. We disagree even on.
I'm just going to disagree. I'm not going to give you any ground. Sorry. Anyway, no, that's been a fun review. It's certainly, it's something to go and watch. Like I'm not going to deter people from going to see this. I'd never want to try to do this because, like I said, it puts in an effort, and the storyline is for the majority of people, just not me. Because the reviews are good, and so I'm not questioning the reviews. I'm trying to think what I missed, and obviously I missed a bit, but that's just why it didn't land for me.
Well, I think you got to be into a certain style. I think you're fine with it, but audiences I can see not really being as keen to go out to see the sort of like cinema of the grotesque. Like families aren't seeing it, and dads aren't seeing. My dad's not interested, and he's a massive Mad Max guy. So.
Yeah, that's crazy. The
fact that they couldn't get the dads is kind of that's the box office there. The way black people showed up for Bad Boys, dads did not show up for Furiosa.
Yeah.
We'll finish there. All right. Well, Well, what should we? I don't know what we're going to do next. I think I like having a running bit where we say next week we're going to do this, and then we never do that one.
Yeah, no, I think it's never ever happened. But eventually we get around to doing the monkey movies. Like I just can't bring myself to. I know I've been told to watch King Kong versus Godzilla and the other one. I just can't do it. Like I put it on. I did put it on, and it was like
it wasn't streaming
properly. And I was like, you know what? It's a sign that I'm on to watch this thing.
It's extremely bad. I was thinking there was another double feature we could do. We could do Hitman, the new Netflix movie.
Oh, really?
With the 1971 movie, also called Hitman. Also spelled the same, like two separate words, Hitman, which is uncommon enough that I'm like, oh, there's a double feature. Completely different movie, blaxploitation. Pam Grier's in it, and she's credited as Pamela Grier, so it's that old, but...
I'm gonna watch the wrong one. I think I want to watch the Timothy Olyphant from 2007
triple feature,
and just feel like I didn't see many black people in this one.
You know, I reckon probably the Timothy Olyphant one will be the best of the three.
I've seen it recently too. It's another one. It's a Godzilla 98 for me. It's just
a shit list,
I know it's bad. I know it's bad for me, but I kind of just I like to play the game, so. For me, it's like I like the scene where he walks in and he sees his kids playing the game, and he just like,
That's pretty good. Yeah, I like it when video game movies were just shit and lean.
They embrace how shit they really.
That's better than Last of Us. If there was a scene where Pedro Pascal walks in on a kid playing Last of Us and he's like, hey. Yeah, I'll probably like it a lot more. All right. Okay, we'll call it that. Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. That's our Furiosa review. Next episode to be determined, but I'm sure it'll be a good one as always. And like, share, subscribe. Shout out Moldova. They were the download
on the pod. Just let old Rhino know.
People
want a guest appear, then I'm not going to hold you back. Come on.
Words of a man who just had an infant child. All right. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye.